formal intro for Eric, other than Eric's an awesome guy, Eric's an awesome leader, has a lot of experience running companies, went to Carolina, has a new baby, 6 weeks old? 6 weeks old, 3 kids, 6 weeks old baby. He's here, gonna present, that's pretty amazing. So he's a great guy to get to know.
Greetings. I'm Eric. I jaywalked across the street from Market to get over here, so it's nice to see you guys. All right. So I'm just going to talk about embarrassing things I've done and what I've learned about those embarrassing things. Some are probably more embarrassing than others, but I've been doing what I do for a while now, and I'll kind of get into my bio in a minute. And I just want to share some mistakes that I've made and what I've learned from them, so that you all can learn from my stupidity and hopefully help grow your businesses faster. But before I begin, I want to talk to you about Sales Jam. Have you guys heard about Sales Jam? Yeah, oh yeah, it's going to be great. It's an event that we are presenting along with Exit Event in, I guess, American Underground as well. It's August 25th, so that's week after next. It's at the Bulls Ballpark. We aimed really high with the speakers that we wanted to come out for this event, and they all said yes, which was amazing. So David Orkin, who's the CEO at bandwidth.com, it's not very often that you get to hang out with the guy who founded and runs a multi-billion-dollar company. So, that should be a good reason to come out. Matt, who runs Windsor Circle, Brendan, who runs NetSertive, Lindsay, who is a social selling expert, ranked #1 by LinkedIn. She's a celebrity in sort of that universe. So it's going to be really, really good. And I hope you can come out. And as an incentive, if you go to thesalesjam.com and enter the code SalesJamDurham16, you'll get 25% off your ticket. So I'm just going to sit here and wait until somebody buys a ticket. My phone will buzz. I'm not kidding. Somebody go buy a ticket right now. I am kidding. I am kidding. We hope to get 200 people come out. So it's going to be a big event. Not like a tiny little meetup, but a big official event. So we're really, really excited about it. So that's the first commercial. I do have one more commercial, I'm sorry. The other commercial is that my company, RevBoss, has a product. We started as a services company over there. Then we shared an office with Device Magic. Then we moved to our own office right there where we had 6 of us into that teeny little space. Then we moved over here and had 3 offices on that wall. So we've kind of grown a little bit, and we started as a services company and raised money back in the fall to build a product. So if your company has a B2B sales process where people are making cold calls or prospecting or targeting people, find me. We would love to show you what we built, and we would love to help you grow your sales pipeline. We have probably 3 or 4 customers that have their offices here at the American Underground, and we like working with our friends and neighbors. So that's it. Okay, so you guys know who Niles Bohr is? Anybody remember 8th grade chemistry? Niles Bohr? Can somebody tell me what Niles Bohr did besides win the Nobel Prize for physics? The Bohr model of the atom. So he is this guy that in 1913, I don't know how he did it, but he figured out that the atomic structure is sort of the planetary model where there's a positively charged nucleus in the middle, and then there are electrons that kind of whir around the outside. That has since been superseded, but at the time it was a pretty big deal. That was a very, very long time ago. But he has this great quote, and I'm not a physicist or whatever, I just like the quote and read about Niles Bohr. But this is the thing that sort of inspired the talk that I want to give, is that mistakes, people celebrate failure and making mistakes, particularly in early stage companies, and I've been doing this for a while now. So, I thought this was a relevant quote, and mistaking your way to success and mistaking your way to learning is pretty important, and it's been pretty important to me. So here's Mr. Niles Bohr. This is what he looked like as a first-time founder. Pretty nice-looking young Danish man there, I would say. Here he is when he's starting his second company, inching a little closer to expertise, and this is what you look like. So this guy had a very, very long, storied career, and he made contributions all along, which is really cool. He sort of discovered the Bohr model of the atom very, very early in his career, but this guy, until he died, was on the cutting edge of quantum physics in chemistry. So he's a really, really interesting fellow, and I would encourage you to read his Wikipedia entry because that's all that I did. I'm somewhere I would like to think I'm somewhere between like number 1 and number 2. I really hope that I don't look quite as haggard as like middle Niles Bohr. But I feel like, my experience building companies, I've kind of gone through the ringer a few times. I was the first employee at Bronto, which now has a bazillion employees, and then got acquired by NetSuite, and then got acquired by Oracle. When I worked there, the office was as big as one of these offices. And so I got a very, very real experience early in my career at like 21 years old of what it takes to build a company. And I made all kinds of stupid mistakes that I'll tell you all about. Bronto turned out to be a great success for me personally, not necessarily financially, because I left way before all the money started raining down from the heavens. But I'm still friendly with those guys, and I learned a lot being there. Second was Argyle Social, was a company I founded after business school. It was a flaming disaster. It completely failed, and I can tell you some about that too. And now I run a company called RevBoss, and things are going well. So, I want to talk about specific things that I did at each of these companies, kind of different roles, different stages, and maybe you can learn something. So the first mistake, failing to prepare, and all these are going to be focused on sales and growth. Mostly sales, because that's what I do and what I'm really good at. The first phone call I ever made as the sales representative at Bronto Software went to voicemail. And I left a message, and the message went kind of like this. Hey, this is Eric. I'm calling from Bronto Mail. Back then it was called Bronto Mail. Hey, this is Eric. I'm calling from Bronto Mail. We do email marketing software. I'm sure it was a terrible pitch. I'd love for you to call me back. My phone number is... Hey, Joe, what's our phone number? That is a very true story. I did not know our phone number. The first time I ever made a phone call on behalf of Bronto. And I went on to a very successful career selling a lot of software for that company. But that is a very, very small lesson in preparation. And it translates to other ways besides just leaving voicemails. But it's something from that. Now when I make a phone call with any customer, even if it's like the 30 seconds while I'm waiting on the phone to ring, I'm looking at their LinkedIn profile or reading about their company so that I don't land in these phone calls completely cold. And if it's a big enough, meaningful enough conversation, I'll spend a lot of time, not just sort of, hey, how's it going? I love your new website, or congrats on the whatever, but planning your call and planning what you want to get out of the call and what your goals are and what your sort of decision tree for questions is something that I've started to do a lot more of. And it all sort of spawned from this first very ill-prepared phone call that I ever made in sales. So that's stupid thing I've done, number 1. Stupid thing number 2, just following up. How many of you guys have heard from a salesperson today that said, I'm just following up? You should shame that person. That is shameful. That is shameful. That is like the laziest thing that you could ever do as a salesperson. And I've followed up millions of times. Early on, we would do these direct mailers to all of these idiotic verticals. I wish you guys could travel back in time with me and see how stupid we were at Bronto in 2003, and then imagine that company got bought for $200 million. 15 years later, but still, we did some really stupid things. And one of the stupid things we would do is we would do these direct mailers to people, and we would think, hey, they got a piece of mail from us, so when we call, they're totally going to remember us. They never did. They never, ever did. And I would call these people, I kid you not, I was like a dog that would not let go. I would call these people 25 times. I was relentless. And every one of these calls was, hey, it's Eric at Bronto Mail. I'm just following up on the message. There was never any value or impetus. I just knew that I sent you something. I knew that I wanted to talk to you, and I was freaking relentless in calling you, just following up. And it wasn't until somebody finally returned my call or picked up and basically said, I feel really sorry for you. who is your manager that's having you make these phone calls? And I kind of thought of it, and it's like, well, they're not making me do it. This is just how I think I should do it, is I just am so relentlessly persistent that you eventually yield and hear what I have to say. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So the learn here is that any follow-up, and it's okay to call it a follow-up, but you need to have a reason. And that reason should be value. As a salesperson, you should know more than the person you're selling to. And you should be seen as someone that is helpful, as someone that can create value for their business and that can help them solve a problem. So the way that I follow up now, and sometimes it is just, hey, a friendly nudge, can you talk next week? But in creating reasons, we have a new product, we have a new feature, I read about this thing, I want to talk to you about it. I read this article about you and it made me think that you should think about this, right? Those are reasons to follow up, and those are little carrots that will make the prospect actually want to hear what you have to say. Number 3, discounting like a moron. How many of you guys have ever talked to a sales rep that tried to pitch you a discount? Yeah, all the freaking time, all the time. So back in the day at Bronto, this is another memory that is very, very vivid. I finally got one of these, it may have been one of these direct mail people that I finally hooked. I got them on the phone and they were talking, and this was the first phone call. This is, hey, this is what we do, we have these features and blah, 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 blah. Are you interested? And the person was like, no, I'm not. And then I said, well, what if I give you a 25% discount? And Joe, the CEO, slammed his hands down behind me. We were in a room that big. I was sitting here, he was sitting behind me, back to back. And he just said, what? And Chaz was sitting right here beside Joe. I turned around, I was like, what did I do wrong? And Chaz looked at Joe, was like, it's cool. So they at least didn't fire me and let me make that mistake. So that is an example of a very poor discounting practice. What I have thus learned is that discounting as a salesperson is always got to be quid pro quo. And it's often got to be conditional. So the way we discount at RevBoss is, hey, if I were able to get permission to give you a discount, I'm not going to tell you what it is, and I'm not guaranteeing that I can get it. Do you think that you could act on it? And that discount might be a few things, and acting on it might be a variety of things. So we wait to get a yes that I can confirm to you that I can act on this discount before we even offer the terms of the discount. And then when we offer the terms of the discount, the terms are always exploding or have a lot of conditions wrapped around it. That way you can kind of psychologically, it sounds very manipulative, and it is, but you can psychologically box the prospect in and leverage the consistency influence, right? There's a great book called Influences by Robert Cialdini, who's a sort of psychology guy, I think at Berkeley or some California school. It talks about how to influence people, one of this consistency. And for me to say, hey, will you do this for me? And then for you to say yes, well then I can go back to you and expect that you're just psychologically wired to be consistent with yourself and say, well, yes, I said that I would do that, and I will do it. And so if you can get someone to say, yes, I am willing and able to act on your discount, when you give them the discount, they've already said yes. And so you've got some leverage to drive them over the line. So never offer a 25% discount in your first phone call with a person. Instead, you need to get them way down the sales process, way down to a point, and then only then, after you've confirmed that they can actually have the ability to act on a discount, should you offer a discount. So the other thing from Bronto, and then we can fast forward to slightly more strategic and baffling and disastrous mistakes. With Bronto early on, I mentioned these direct mail campaigns we did. I kid you not, we did people that went to Carolina, because hey, I went to Carolina. You should want to talk to me. We did law firms, we did YMCAs, we did universities, we did marketing agencies. Kind of get the idea, right? It was pretty freaking scattershot. And, we didn't know any better. And finally, we started doing Google advertising. And we would get tons of inbounds, and they were all over the place. All over the place. You name the like industry, I have probably sold them email marketing software, including like, yeah, I won't even say, but shocking companies. And you know, of course, it's like a broad product with broad appeal. And that kind of got the company to a point, and then it became very clear that this kind of isn't working anymore. Like, I'm on the phone with a law firm 1 minute, then I'm on the phone with an e-commerce company, then I'm on the phone with a professional sports team, and then I'm on the phone with something completely different. And we went through like 4 years of like, hey, yeah, do you have people you want to email? Buy us, because we're the best. And the company, the trajectory for the company really started to change. This was happening as I was leaving the company, when we were like, well, okay, this is getting kind of stupid, and we just can't sustain this. And so the company narrowed its focus, like drastically narrowed its focus, to just focus on e-commerce. And now that's all they sell to. And they built a company that someone thought was worth $200 million, selling nothing but software for e-commerce companies. And that was a very, very painful lesson early on, when we were selling anything to anybody that would listen. So, focus is the sort of the takeaway there. Mistake number 5 is brought to you by Sales Jam. Sales Jam, happening August 25th, week after next, at the PNC Club at the Durham Bulls Athletic Park, featuring David Morgan, Brendan Morrissey, Lindsay Boggs, and many, many others. Okay, on mistake number 5. So now we are in, so that was like the Paleozoic era of SaaS with Bronto. That was like 2003 to 2007, which is a long time ago. Now we're talking about the company that I started right after business school. I went to business school at UNC. And all my friends got really good, really high-paying jobs at McKinsey and Goldman and all these great companies, and I graduated unemployed with no idea what I was going to do. And I would sit at home and watch Metalocalypse and Cartoon Network and eat grape nuts and think about what I was going to do. And that eventually turned into a software company called Argyle Social that actually had some success. We raised $1.6 million and built a good team, and it all kind of fell apart for reasons that I will begin to articulate, at least some of the reasons I will begin to articulate. One of the things that we found, we built this product. It was a social media marketing product. We had competitors that were free, or like $10 a month. We had competitors that were like $10,000 a month. And we were like awash in the middle. And we had tons of sales leads. I mean, when you are marketing social media marketing software via social media marketing to social media marketers, it's freaking fish in a barrel getting those leads, because these social media people, they were just, at this time, just starving for tools and starving for credibility because it was a new idea. And so we got tons of sales leads, and we really started to hit our stride in sales. The thing that we didn't really understand, we had to discount every single deal. Hardly anybody bought list price. We had to discount every deal that we did. We probably discounted it smarter than the way I was doing it previously, like, hey, do you want 25% off? But we had to discount every single deal. And that was a massive, massive red flag that we did not have the sense to recognize. One, discounting, if you have to discount every time, there's like a real problem. 2, you just need to stand by your price. And if people don't value the product at its price, then they're probably not a good customer. And maybe you close them with some sort of discounted, sort of psychological warfare deal, but they're probably not going to be a customer for a very long time. So I guess sort of the mistake that we made here is that we discount every time, and we didn't think there was anything wrong with it. In fact, we even priced our product in such a way of like, hey, yeah, well, let's have a setup fee, and then let's just cancel the setup fee because people think they're getting a deal, and like, that's just not a good way to do it. And I think the takeaway here is, don't discount like an idiot, discount like a smart person, and use it sparingly. Otherwise, like, defend your price, and if you can't defend your price, then you've got a deeper problem that you need to evaluate, which we had at Argyle, and I will tell you more. So number 6, drifting from the metal, and this was, I was the CEO of Argyle, and first probably 30 customers, I probably sold every one. Customers 30 through 100, somebody named Danny, either Danny Chu or Danny Olinsky, probably sold it. and they sat right behind me and reported to me, and I was very, very close to it. As things started to look pretty good, and we raised sort of our what you would call it, we raised north of $1 million. It's like, hey, well, we're selling things. Let's just go get a bunch of salespeople. And we hired a VP of sales. And at that point, I was like layers removed from the sales conversation, the product feedback, and the market. And that was a massive, massive, massive mistake. Because we had something. We thought we had more than we actually had. We hadn't figured out what we thought we had figured out. And because I was no longer hearing every sales conversation, I was no longer involved in every deal, we missed it. And we ended up building the wrong product. And it ended up killing the business. And I think when I sort of unravel that, the real undoing there was I just got too far from the action. I became strategic CEO guy, which there is a time to be that, but I became sort of the hands-off CEO, managing managers and running a process when I should have been making cold calls and doing deals. And that combined with a lot of other things really led us down a wrong path and caused us to make a lot of mistakes. So, stay close to the metal. That is my takeaway. The metal being like where the machine and gears and things touch. Also the metal, like the music that can move your soul. Mason knows what I'm talking about. Mason knows what I'm talking about. So yeah, I drift to the metal, both literally and, well, I guess figuratively and figuratively. So number 7, forcing the ramp. So I mentioned this. We had a product and we were selling it, and it was like, all right, this is going pretty good. Let's raise a bunch of money and then throw a bunch of salespeople at it. And this is sort of the other side of the coin of drifting from the metal. We went out and hired a great VP of sales. He was awesome. He's still my friend. I learned a ton from him. I would hire him to be the VP of sales at RevBoss today if he weren't already making more money than God at his current role. The thing that we did was, we had a product, we could sell it, and instead of being very thoughtful about how we sort of advance that and sell a little bit more and move a little bit faster, we literally hired 5 salespeople all at once. And then we hired 3 more people right after that. And so we went from 3 salespeople to whatever that math is, probably 9 or 12 or something. And that was really, really dumb. We burned through a ton of cash. We had to fire people. And I even remember having conversations. Hey, yeah, let's hire 6. Maybe we get 2 good ones. Maybe we'll get 2 that can figure it out. Maybe we get 2 A's, 2 B's, and then we can just fire 2 people. That is awful. That is awful. I had that conversation and decided, yes, let's do that. That is a very wise thing to do. And in reality, it is. I will tell you, if you're running a sales team of any sort of scale, that's the math. Hire 3, get an A, get a B, fire somebody. That's how it goes. And if you're sort of mega scale, you're probably hiring them and firing them, and hopefully hiring more than you're firing. That's the truth of sales. But when you are an early stage company, and you are trying to figure it out, and you are trying to breathe life into this delicate idea and this delicate culture, firing people, not good. Particularly firing good people that did a good job that just dropped into a situation where the CEO got too far from the metal, the product wasn't ready, and there wasn't enough leads to go around. So it was kind of like we had to fire these people because my VP of sales and I were dumb. It's really what it came down to. And I'll kind of talk about how we're dealing with this a little bit at RevBoss. So, lesson learned, don't force the ramp. Number 8, inventing the problem. And this gets down to what I think is kind of core to some of the things that led to the untimely demise of Argyle. The feature where we hung our hat, social media ROI, hey, can you map your tweets and your Facebook posts to on-site conversions? That was the feature that we had that nobody else had. That was the story that we were selling that no one else was selling. Nobody cared. This was the early era of social media, and all anybody wanted to do was get a lot of followers and just feel good about what they were doing and have credibility with their boss. And this feature that we really sold people on and had to discount every time to get them over the line, when we really, really, really dug into it, nobody cared about it. Nobody cared. It was an invented problem. It became a more pronounced problem as the market evolved and the budgets were real. But at this time in the market, it was like, hey, yeah, just get an intern or get some kid out of college, pay her like 25 grand, let her tweet and let her post on Facebook and she's gonna think she's important and like whatever. Okay, check. That's our social media strategy. That's what it was. Like the social media people were interns in the, late aughts. And, selling that person on multi-touch attribution, which is like literally what we were selling, it's really complicated if you don't know what that is. It's like very complicated like marketing management. Selling that to that person was so stupid. And it was just an invented problem that we thought they should have, that they didn't have. So the lesson here is to solve a real problem. And there's definitely a balance between I can articulate to you what your problem is versus you understanding what you actually want to do and what problem you actually want to solve. So be careful with that as you're building products. Make sure that you're solving a real problem, not some sort of academic manufactured trumped up problem that isn't real. So, mistake number 9 is brought to you by RevBoss. We have a product beta. We would love for you to check it out. For the beta period, we're giving 100 free leads to anyone that is willing to test drive our product. Email me, eric@revboss.com, and I'll tell you all about it. Mistake number 9. So now we're in RevBoss era, and I am slightly less stupid as a manager and as a leader since I did all these other dumb things. Mistake we made at RevBoss not too long ago. We hired this guy named Matt, who's actually pretty awesome, but it was a terribly mistimed hire. He was a sales guy, and he did an okay job. He actually paid for himself in like the first 3 months. He was a cold caller, so he was using RevBoss for RevBoss. Did his work, a deal closed, that customer's still a customer today. Well, they're probably going to stay a customer for a long time. So in terms of the great measure of salesperson, yeah, he created more value than we actually paid him. The problem is there's sort of a very sort of oversimplified way to think about this is there are sales sort of athletes and then there are bus drivers. And Danny, who works with us, who's based in Dallas, Texas now, who will probably watch this recording. Hi, Danny. He's an athlete. I'm an athlete. I would be terrible at selling the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over. I am very good at figuring out the process and then teaching somebody else and moving on to the next thing. Danny is kind of the same way. We hired this guy, Matt, and he's a bus driver. And that's fine. Like, you have to have that. Both of those skills are equally valued. A bus driver is, I get on my bus, I drive the route, I do the same thing every day. I will do this 1,000 times over and over and over and over, and I will be happy doing it because I'm the bus driver, and it is my job to do the same thing over and over and over. So we brought this guy, Matt, in, and he's a bus driver, but we needed athletes. And we hadn't figured out our process. We didn't really know what our process was. It was still very much shoot from the hip. Like, pricing was fluid, products were fluid, and we're still a ways away from knowing exactly what our process is. And we still need athletes at RevBoss. So it was a mistake for us at that stage to hire, someone that would have been perfect as like the 5th or 6th person on our sales team. Once we had this thing like ironed out and like this is how you do it, he would have destroyed it. He would have been awesome. But we brought him in early, it didn't work, and we had to let him go, and it sucked. Yes, sir?
I just had a question. Do you mean Matt who started a company on that is still successfully running it? Is it that Matt? Or is it a different
Talking about Matt, not that Matt. Matt that works at Lenovo now. So that's mistiming hires. Number 10 is not making it grow. And this is a little bit of a weird one. So this gets back to like the forced ramp at RevBoss, or at Argyle, versus kind of where we've been at RevBoss today. Until very recently, we've only had one person focused on growth, and that's Danny. All of our deals have been inbound, referral, We rank on a handful of keywords already. As a company that does build software for outbound sales teams, we have done an incredibly poor job of running outbound sales for ourselves. That has since changed, and we're starting to speed that process up. And so it's been a little bit of a weird balance for us. And I don't know that this is a pronounced mistake, but I think when I look back, it's going to be something that we did wrong. We didn't invest in growth early enough, and now that we've got something that's like ready to go, we're kind of like, oh, okay, how do we get this massive number that we put in front of ourselves through the end of the year? And there are some quick ways that you can accelerate that, but I think in retrospect, we probably could have done a better job of laying foundations along the way, because we knew that we would get to this point. It's just a matter of sort of timing. And a great example, Phil Fernandez, who's the CEO at Marketo, he has this great story of how they had 14,000 leads, like signed up to receive an email or something before their product was even ready. Noah Kagan, the guy that led growth at Mint, he had like 20,000 free trial users that had agreed to use a product that hadn't even existed yet. And believe me, the people at RevBoss, like on our team, will tell you that I'm very much a fan of telling the truth in advance. I feel like I probably say that a couple times a week. But the thing about growth in an early stage company is it doesn't just happen. You have to like brute force growth. And with RevBoss, we've grown. It's been choppy, but it's okay. I've been okay with it being choppy because we haven't really invested in it yet. And I think in retrospect, a mistake that we made over the past 6 months is that we didn't maybe lay some bricks in the foundation that we probably should have. So that's it. I'm making other mistakes. I just don't know what they are yet. So let's do this again in 6 or 12 months, and I will probably have like a whole slew of other stupid things. So that's it. I'm done. Thank you guys for listening. Here's me.